Welcome to the Panic Button, everyone. I'm Nina.
I'm Jessie.
So a new acronym just dropped coming from Canada, and we're going to react to this video that's going viral for that specific reason.
Okay, Canada.
When the budget was released, I was shocked to find out that Prime Minister Carney is cutting $7 billion between Indigenous Services Canada and Crown Indigenous Relations. They provided $0 to deal with the ongoing genocide of MMIW, G2S, LGBTQIA+. This is abhorrent. This is callous. This is callous because the very Liberal government that has stripped organizations of life-sustaining funding has now committed $13 billion. $13 billion on military spending. Who is paying for it? Indigenous women across this country, Indigenous women, girls to us, LGBTQIA+, are not safe. In fact, rates of violence are increasing. And what is the Prime Minister doing? He is turning a blind eye on this violence. You know, the Prime Minister talks a lot about projects of national interest. What is in the national interest are the lives, safety, security, and dignity, not in the national interest of Indigenous women and girls to us LGBTQIA+. Is the Prime Minister okay having Indigenous women to us LGBTQIA+ family members and organization coming to Parliament begging time and time again to see our humanity? Is he okay with that? Well, clearly, with his behavior the other day, laughing at a woman from Grassy Narrows who is suffering from mercury poisoning, having to beg for an apology is an example of how this Prime Minister has turned his back on Indigenous peoples, particularly Indigenous women and girls to us LGBTQIA+. And what does that look like? It looks like rates of violence increasing.
Wow, what
I
a
counted at least
joke.
4 times at that.
A joke. Like, this woman is like, we care about the murdered Indigenous women. You're making them out to be a joke by tacking them onto this ridiculous acronym. We're not the same. Wow.
No, and that's a wonderful point to bring up. Do you feel that because you are gay, that you can relate to Indigenous people and their struggle? No, I'm genuinely asking.
No.
Do you feel like you personally can?
No, I don't even relate to the T's or the Q's or the I's, A's.
To start with, now, we actually live near reservations.
Oh, yeah.
I want to point out that, at least in the United States, there are reservations that are extremely lacking. They don't have running water in their homes. They don't have the amenities that we are so grateful for.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we shouldn't take care of these people and help these people out. We absolutely should. But when you tack them on to every other struggle, it makes their struggle wash away with everyone else's. And I don't think it should. Specifically, that's why I'm upset, is because I want these people, natives, Indigenous people, whatever you prefer to call them, I want them to have their chance to have a fair, equal, not murderous society. I don't know if there's more Indigenous women being murdered, but if there is, someone should do something about that. And by lumping them in with gays, you're actually obscuring your numbers. Now, if this Native individual happens to also be gay, cool. But if we're talking specifically about the rate of women getting murdered, which is what you brought up, then maybe we shouldn't also be saying that LGBTQ, so some of these women are men in our perspective, and then this and that and the other, you're erasing the entire point that you started with.
Yeah, and you're also confusing people too, because what do they have to do with the LGBs, and what do the LGBs have to do with the Ts, and vice versa?
I was gonna say, the more
Indigenous women are murdered mainly by their partners.
Yes. An aggressive man in any sense.
Majority of the time, they're murdered by their partners.
I mean, that's how most
women... It has to do with
women...
addiction. It has to do with poverty. It has to do with all that.
For most women, but I'm not sure, so I'm not trying to put out a fake stat. I'm sure most women probably get murdered by their partner.
Right, but when they're specifically talking about this, when I looked it up, that's what it said.
Well, maybe they need to do some help, some resources like counseling, and when they have the abused women clinics, they should have those specifically for Indigenous people.
Right. It's just a way for these politicians to get more money by just lumping us all in together like we're some a giant collective oppressive class when we're not. You're actually taking away from each individual, like the LGBs. You're taking away from them by lumping the TQIA in with them. You're also taking away from the LGBs and the TQIA by adding the murdered Indigenous women on. Likewise, you're taking away from the murdered Indigenous women by lumping them in with everyone else.
Yeah.
Like, you're not taking them seriously.
You know what happens when you keep adding and adding and adding?
No one can remember it as well.
Not only can people not remember it, you are no longer exclusionary for the people that you want to help.
Yeah, exactly.
You start
You're
opening-
not saying these people are important.
Because when you start talk about Indigenous people and then you add LGBTQ, even just that, right? When you do that, now Indigenous people is some of the group, but also in the group is a bunch of white LGBT people, right? Or even Black, or even Asian. Either way, not Indigenous.
No.
So by adding more qualifiers and not making the previous ones still count, and you know what happens when you do that is you end up getting this like melting pot situation where everyone just is a society and we all struggle and we all just try and help each other.
You're watering down your message. You're watering down the serious nature and the seriousness of the issue, which is these murdered Indigenous women. You're saying they're just like the 2S LGBTQIA+.
Even if you're not trying to say they're just like them, by grouping them together, you are.
Yeah. Like, why don't you just say every oppressive class is part of it and then add every oppressive class onto the acronym? That's what they're doing. You're making it into a freaking joke.
Well, the thing
For
is,
what?
Even you and I who take this as a very serious topic,
Yeah.
it's still funny when you 4 times take 10 seconds to say an acronym that is actually dismissing your point. It's not funny that you're doing this actually. It's just crazy that you're putting all those letters together. When you started with the MI bull BS, I thought you were about to like name off a rocket or like a tank or like some military stuff, and you were like LGBTQ, and I was like, wait, where are we going?
It's the MMIWG 2S LGBTQIA+. No one is going to remember that.
She said that
and
at least 4
what does that do
times.
for murdered Indigenous people, lesbians, gays, transsexuals, like yada yada? What does that do for all of us? Nothing. Because if no one can remember it, is it important? No. People will just see it as a joke. It's become a joke. You treated murdered Indigenous women as a joke. You treated gays and lesbians as a joke. You're treating transsexuals as a joke. It's freaking ridiculous. Yeah, it turns into a freaking Wi-Fi password.
Can you put that in? That's hilarious.
Yeah. It's so, like, if you want us to take it seriously, you have to act like you're taking it seriously. And this just makes you look like a freaking fool. And like you don't actually take murdered Indigenous women seriously because you're tacking them on with everything else. It makes no sense. I hate these people. I hate them. Why are you doing this? Like, you're not helping anyone. What you're doing is you're virtue signaling your way to hell or the mental asylum. Either way, people will just think you're crazy and you're not taking it seriously. And that's what they're doing.
Sorry.
Now they're a laughingstock. You just made murdered Indigenous women a laughingstock.
Which
For
is
what?
unfortunate.
So you can look inclusive?
And it's really
These have
unfortunate.
nothing to do with each other. Why don't you add on murdered Black women? Let's just add everyone on. Let's make all these causes unserious.
The Canadian government just dropped the most inclusive acronym to ever be Frankenstein together, and then IWGLTQIAP2SAAJBNB. Yeah, that's basically what it feels like, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like so freaking ridiculous. It's like, that's why it's going viral. Because how much more could you add on? I wouldn't be surprised if this just pissed off the whole Indigenous community. It pisses me off that the fucking TQIA plus crap got added on. Now you're adding on more. You're watering down every single cause. For the purpose of what? I made notes, so I'm gonna read my notes to just close out this video, okay? Unless you have anything else to say.
Poop.
Yeah, it's poop. Okay, it's not funny, it's ridiculous. Here's why this giant acronym is a total mess. It started with LGB, same-sex attraction, or attracted to both. Who you're attracted to. Then they tacked on the TQIA+, which is about gender identity. That's not just different, it's in direct contradiction with the lesbians and gays. The T's are telling lesbians they must accept men who identify as women, or they're bigots, transphobic, TERFs. That's the cotton ceiling, calling lesbians' underwear a barrier that must be broken. You're literally attaching a group that wants to erase what it means to be gay and lesbian. Then they also snapped on the MMIWG, murdered Indigenous women and girls, under the banner of intersectionality to bundle all oppressions for more political power and funding. But this does real harm. It distracts from actual solutions for those murdered women, like fixing addiction, poverty, and community violence.
I just said this.
It erases lesbians and gays' same-sex attraction by calling it bigotry, and it turns 3 unrelated tragedies into one ridiculous clown show where nobody gets real help. One messy slogan, 0 progress for anyone, and additional social credit points to the people touting the new ridiculous acronym.
I mean, honestly, if you can remember that, say it all you want. You're going to tongue-tie yourself before you can finish the conversation.
But every time you say that acronym, you're just going to look like a freaking joke.
Well, and like I said, and like you said even in that summary, the more you do this, the more you're taking away from the serious thing that you're trying to talk about. And I don't know numbers. I don't know rates. And I'm not trying to claim that I do. But I do think that if they're saying that it's increasing, we need to do something to protect them.
Oh, well, you know how we protect them? We add them into the already ridiculous acronym.
We protect them by identifying what's going on and establishing laws or support centers for the people going through those things. Just like we have
Right.
abused women's shelters for regular every day. The thing is, a lot of Indigenous people live on reservations where they don't have access to the same stuff that you and I would have because they have to get all these permissions and all these rules to set up on there. Allow them to make shelters or fund shelters and like community centers where they can go and talk and like have somewhere to go.
Yeah.
Like we have women's shelters. It's not crazy. And I'm not trying to dismiss her point. I do think that your acronym.
She dismissed her own point by
I do think your acronym
repeating
is
that
killing
acronym
it.
4 times.
Minimum. I think it might have been 5.
Way to just completely demolish any progress you intended to make.
And you don't realize you're doing it.
No, because you're freaking wokeified. You're
think
brain
it's-
rotted with woke. It's so frustrating because now you've made murdered Indigenous women, murdered transsexuals, murdered lesbians and gays. All of our causes are now watered down to bunk. For what? So they could look inclusive.
Well, I don't know if she's the head of this group that she's trying to get funding for, but it seems like she was just mad that she didn't get any money. Either way.
Well, you know what would be more helpful? Raising awareness. Maybe
Going out
make
and
more
doing it.
documentaries. Going out and talking about it. Specifically that. Don't lump them in with us. And, like, we shouldn't be lumping the TQIA+ with the LGBT. Like, when you, like, lumping all of us in together makes all of these causes meaningless.
It's true.
And you are making murdered Indigenous women a laughingstock.
Twice as true.
So you can look inclusive. So you can look a certain way, taking away from what you actually say you care about, which I have a really hard time believing that now.
I think it's money. When you're complaining
Absolutely.
this much, I think it's money.
Yeah. How do you get more funding? Well, look at how oppressed the murdered Indigenous women are. They're tacked on to the already oppressed group of people. See, look at all these oppressed groups of people. You have to give us more money because now it's not just the lesbians and gays, transsexuals, intersex, asexuals. Now it's murdered Indigenous women. You have to give us money now.
It's just not a good
the opposite.
Not a good look.
No, it's terrible. What you want is not what you're going to get by doing this. You're freaking fools. Canada's a freaking joke. This lady, what she's doing is ridiculous. She is working against her own cause. Anyway, what do you guys think? Drop it in the comments below. Like and subscribe.
Bye.
And join our memberships to keep this channel going. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.
We love you.
Creeping, crawling.